Hey guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead, and today we're going to be talking about Magistus. Before we get into the video, be sure to go ahead and check out our last video. Check out our social media. We're trying to get started up on there while we're growing here on YouTube. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell to get notified every time we make a new video. In order to understand the deck, first we have to understand what it's really trying to accomplish here. The main thing we're trying to accomplish in this deck is summoning Iwis the Magistus Spell Spirit. It requires any Magistus monster and a spellcaster type monster. All of the main deck monsters are spellcasters, and one of the extra deck monsters is a spellcaster. But the reason we want to summon Iwis is because during the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target one other face-up monster on the field, equip this card you control to it, and if this card was equipped to an opponent's monster by this effect, take control of the opponent's equipped monster. Also, it cannot activate its effects. It doesn't really matter that the monster that you take control of can't activate its effects, because the main thing is the opponent doesn't have it. We have it. Yoink. The opponent's got a nice boss monster? Nope. We have a nice boss monster. Oh man, that's a really cool Link 4 that you spent all your resources to go into. Mind if I take it off of your hands real quick? And then of course, while it's an equipped card, the equipped monster also gains 1000 attack and defense. So not only do we yoink their monster, the monster will be even better. Of course, we can't activate its effects, but it's more imposing on our side of the field. But of course, fusion monsters require a fusion spell and 2 materials. So how exactly is this deck going to mitigate that loss in card advantage? Well, here's the fusion spell here, Magistus Invocation. The name Invocation might seem familiar to you because it is basically, in the lore, the same thing as the invoked invocation. Except instead of using both yours and your opponent's graveyard to fusion summon, it can use your back row. What the hell does that mean? So you fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material, including a spellcaster. So you do have to use at least one spellcaster with this thing. And if summoning a Magistus fusion monster this way, which of course we will, it's the only fusion we play, you can also use monsters in your spell and trap zone that are equipped to a Magistus monster. So here we're beginning to see what this deck is aiming to do. We're aiming to equip monsters to our Magistus monsters, then use them as material. But what monsters are we equipping? We're actually equipping all of our extra deck monsters, and we have 3 ways to do that in this deck. The first of which is Zoroa the Magistus of Flame. This guy he is a tuner, so you can synchro summon with him, but you can target a Magistus monster you control, including itself, equip it with a Magistus monster from your extra deck, and also if it becomes equipped with a Magistus monster card, you can special summon a level 4 spellcaster from your hand in defense position, except for another copy of itself, but its effects are negated. So we're equipping directly from the extra deck with this guy, and of course he can help you special summon things, but the main thing is getting that equipped onto your Zoroa or one of your other Magistuses. And the one that we're usually going to be equipping first is Artemis the Magistus Moon Maiden. It's a link monster that requires a level 4 or lower spellcaster, but we're not summoning it, we're just going to equip it. While it's equipped to a monster, you can add a Magistus monster from deck to hand as an ignition effect. So basically, you normal summon Zoroa, or maybe special summon with another effect, then you use his effect, equip the Artemis to himself, then Artemis will let you search for another Magistus. So just using one monster, we've gotten 2. Not to mention that we still have that Artemis equipped, so that's basically a +2 in card advantage from the one Zoroa. But Zoroa is not the only one who does it. Endymion does it as well. The exact same effect that equips a Magistus monster from your extra deck to it, or another one of your Magistuses. Also, you can target a face-up spell you control, destroy it, and if you do draw a card, then place a card from hand to the bottom of your deck. If you bricked, you drew too many of the same card, right? You could use this, destroy one of the Magistuses that you equipped to itself to help filter your hand better. But of course, maybe you don't want to destroy the thing that you equip to it from the extra deck, because maybe you want to use it as fusion material with a Magistus Invocation. That's why we have the Light Barrier skill, and really you can use any skill that allows you to put a face-up spell on the field, like any of the field spell skills or the continuous spell skills. It really doesn't matter, just having them available so we can pop them using the Endymion. Although I will say that you'd probably prefer to have a field spell one, because the continuous spell ones might clog you up and you don't always want to use that hand filtering effect of Endymion. But Zoroa and Endymion, we only have a total of 5 of them. You could play a 3rd copy of Endymion if you wanted. I'm not against that at all. You can definitely do that if you want, but I felt like it's best to play 8 copies of cards that equip things from the extra deck. Yes, I said 8. I've only shown you 5, but there's 3 more. We've also got Magistus Theurgy. It's a quick play spell that targets a Magistus you control. Equip it with a Magistus monster except a level 4 from your extra deck, graveyard, or face-up field. And it does more than that, however, it's not really happening in this deck, so you can read that if you want, but I'm not going to read it. So, we got the Theurgy, the Zoroa, and the Endymion, which can equip the Artemis. The Artemis can search another Magistus, and you can keep playing from there. By putting that Artemis in your back row, you're also giving yourself free fusion material for the Magistus invocation. Because of course, you'll only need 2 monsters, and if one of those monsters includes the back row, then you can use the Artemis, and even something else that's equipped, or a monster in your hand, or a monster in your field, to fusion summon into Iwis. How exactly, though, are we going to always have the Magistus invocation? Riliona, the Magistus of Vare. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate one of these effects. The first one, and the important one, is add a Magistus spell trap from your deck to your hand. So, of course, Magistus invocation, right? Also, you could instead, you can't do both, but you could instead return one of your banished level 4 or lower spellcaster type monsters to your grave. And also it's got a nice grave effect that you can banish this card from your grave, target a Magistus you control, equip it with a Magistus monster from your grave, except for a level 4 monster. So after you got rid of your Artemis, maybe you can re-equip the Artemis next turn, search another Magistus. But you know, that 3 copies of Riliona to search for the 3 copies of Magistus. If we already have the Magistus, we don't need to use the Riliona, right? Unless we want to get that beneficial grave effect. That's 6 copies, right? Wrong. It's actually a lot more than 6 copies, because we also have 8 more copies. What's 6 plus 8? 14. We have 14 copies of the invocation, because the Zoroa, Endymion, and Theurgy can equip an Artemis, and the Artemis can search for the Riliona. But that means that you've already normal summoned. But what if you didn't normal summon yet? That's where the Tris Magistus comes in. It's a continuous spell. The first time each Magistus you control that is equipped with an equipped card would be destroyed by battle, it is not destroyed. That's not going to happen though. And during your main phase, you can special summon a level 4 spellcaster from your hand. That's pretty nice. If you happen to have 1 spellcaster in your hand, you activate this. Special summon a Zoroa, for instance. Zoroa then equips an Artemis. Artemis searches for a Riliona. You normal summon Riliona, search for the invocation, and you're going off. But the Tris Magistus has another effect you could use if you happen to have more than 1 Magistus in your hand. That you can send this face-up card to the graveyard, special summon any number of Magistus monsters with different names from your hand. That's fantastic. Summon any amount from your hand for free without a normal summon. It means that whatever we search, we can normal summon freely. Other than that special summon, we do have a couple of other special summons in this deck which are searchable. The first of which is Crowley, the Magistus of Grimoires. This Black Clover reject is actually Alistair the Invoker. You might see in the art here that he's got his invocation book, and you can send a spellcaster monster from your hand or field to the grave, special summon this card from your hand. So, mainly using it for that special summon effect. It does have more effects, 2 more effects that is. You can declare an attribute, this card becomes that attribute until the end of the turn.
Who cares?
That's really not going to come up that often in this deck, but also you can banish it from grave to do the same thing as Riliona, to equip one of your extra deck Magistus from grave back to one of your Magistus on the field. And the other special summon that we have in the deck is Magistus Vritra. It's a normal spell that targets a level 4 or lower Magistus monster in grave, special summon it. And if a Magistus card in your spell trap zone would be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your grave instead. We would have Vritra if we already have a bunch of the other spells that we need, right? Usually we want to have an invocation, usually want to have a Tris Magistus, but it's okay. The Riliona can instead search for the Vritra, which can be the extra extender you need for your end board. Speaking of that end board though, of course we already spoke on the Iwis, but what's the next thing we're going to do after summoning an Iwis? Just having 1 interruption, even if that interruption is really nice, is not enough these days. You need to have either multiple interruptions, interruption plus survivability, or really good survivability. And regardless of what you have, you need to have a really good follow-up, but we'll get into that later. But what we're going to set up, generally speaking, in the majority of hands is an Iwis on the field, and 1 rank 4 of our choice. Because of all of our monsters being level 4 and the decent amount of special summoning we can do in this deck, we can easily get 2 level 4s on the field and the Iwis. Turn 2 of those level 4s into whatever rank 4 we believe is going to be best for that scenario. We're going to look at our opponent, assume what deck they're playing based on what character they're playing, and then we're going to pick either number 106 Giant Hand, Abyss Dweller, or Steel Swarm Roach. Abyss Dweller is the most relevant one this format, so this is definitely not cuttable. It is not debatable. You definitely need to play Abyss Dweller in this deck because you can detach a material from it as a quick effect to prevent your opponent from activating cards in the graveyard for the entire turn. You know what that means? No Orchest activations. Pretty much. They don't get to use their Orchest cards in the grave, so summon Abyss Dweller turn 1 and you basically beat Orchest. But not everybody's Orchest, and even the decks that aren't Orchest, not all of them are going to be activating cards in the graveyard all the time. There's a good chance that they might be Synchro Summoning or Pendulum Summoning, and in those situations Steel Swarm Roach is going to be a great card for you because Steel Swarm Roach can negate special summons of monsters that are level 5 or higher. And oh man, my opponent's Jack Atlas or Yusei Fudo. Damn, I summon Roach. You better have the book or the chalice now, buddy. And then, if you feel like neither of those are going to be good against your opponent, then you can summon number 106 Giant Hand. During either player's turn, when an opponent's monster effect is activated on your opponent's field, except during the damage step, you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 effect monster your opponent controls while this card is face up on the field. That effect monster's effects are negated. Also, it cannot change its battle position. So, if they're not activating cards in the grave and they're not Synchro or Pendulum Summoning, then at least they're activating monster effects on the field, right? Surely they can't do none of those things. So that's how having these 3 is really good as a versatile package in your extra deck. You can summon 1 of these and the Iwis and you'll have a pretty solid turn 1 with a pretty solid follow-up too. Because of course, like I said before, the Rilliona and the Crowley can both banish themselves from grave to re-equip one of your Magistus extra deck monsters from grave onto one of your Magistus monsters on the field. So you re-equip the Artemis, which will then search another Magistus, and you're back in it again. There's a couple cards I haven't mentioned just yet. It's because they're here for some versatility, but they're not going to be summoned all that often. The first one is Ninaruru, the Magistus Glass Goddess. It requires 2 level 4 spellcaster monsters. If it's an equipped card, the equipped monster can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. Not that relevant, to be honest. And then you can only use each of the following effects of Ninaruru once per turn. You can attach a material from this card, then target a level 4 or higher spellcaster monster in your grave, add it to your hand. While this card is equipped to a monster, you can target a Magistus card in your spell trap zone and 1 spell trap card your opponent controls and destroy them. So if you really need back row removal, Ninaruru can get the job done. Of course, you do have to destroy one of your Magistus back row, maybe including itself. That's a pretty good versatile effect to have. And the other one might come up more often, Varum, the Magistus Divinity Dragon. If this card is an equipped card, the equipped monster cannot be destroyed by your opponent's spell trap effects. And to be real with you, that's not going to happen. Can you tell me a back row that people play all the time that destroys your opponent's monsters these days? Needle Sealing. But guess what? Nobody plays Needle Sealing because of Orchest. So, you know, Varum might be more relevant when that happens. Maybe you can equip it as a quick effect with the Magistus Theurgy when Needle Sealing is good again. But for now, while Orchest is around, that effect isn't going to be all that good. But then you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this Synchro Summon card is destroyed, not happening by the way, you can destroy all face-up cards your opponent controls. And at the start of the damage step, if the monster this card is equipped to battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. So there's a lot of the word destroy going on in this card text, and it's kind of annoying me considering all the Orchest going around. But it's not completely irrelevant against decks that aren't Orchest to just destroy something by attacking into it real quick with one of your lower tech Magistus. So having it available is good. But technically speaking, the Varum and the Ninaruru are cuttable. You could put more rank 4s in there if you want. You could put more copies of Iwis, more copies of Artemis if you wanted. Completely up to you. At the end of the day, I'm not here to tell you how to build your deck. I'm just here to show you how to play it. So let's get into me showing you how to play it. So what you're going to want to see in your opening hand is some way to get the Artemis on the field for your card advantage reasons, and also some way to get access to Magistus Invocation. That could be you already having a copy of Rilliona to search for the invocation. It could be having a Zoroa to equip Artemis, to search Rilliona, to search Invocation. And of course, if we have the Trismegistus, even better. It makes the process easier. It means that we can rely on normal summoning the Rilliona. But in the case that we can't special summon We're going to hope that we already have the invocation, or we're going to normal summon the Riliona, disregarding the effects of Zoroa and Endymion that might be in our hand. Because it's better to get diffusion off than to get lots of pluses, because we want to be able to defend ourselves. In this case, we have a way to special summon in the Magistus, a way to equip something with an Endymion. Of course, we also have the Theurgy, which can equip something. Theurgy is also pretty nice with the Riliona, because we can normal summon Riliona, search for the invocation. Theurgy will equip the Artemis, and Artemis will get our search. But we don't need to get too complicated. We activate the Magistus, activate the first effect just because we only have one of the Magistus monsters in our hand. If we had more, we'd use the second effect to special summon multiple from the hand, but since we only have one, we just special summon one from the hand so we can keep it, of course. And we activate its effect to equip the Artemis from extra deck to it. And then the Artemis can activate here, and if we already had a Riliona, for example, we could potentially search for a Crowley as a special summon, but since we don't have the Riliona and we need that fusion spell, then of course we get that Riliona, and then we can summon that Riliona right there, activate its effect to search for a back row, get that invocation. What you could do now is you could use the invocation using 2 of these 3 monster cards as fusion material. I do want to point out though that the Endymion is here, and of course this isn't going to happen all the time, because sometimes it'll be Zoroa, it won't always be Endymion. But if you happen to have any face-up spell, could be the field spell, you might even want to destroy your own Magistus, you could use the Endymion to pop one of them. In this case, I'll destroy the Magistus, just, you know, in case you didn't want to use the light barrier skill. And it'll add a card to my hand, and I can put one back. So of course I have a duplicate here, so I might as well send the duplicate back. But maybe you got a monster, maybe you got something nice for yourself, but I'm just going to put that Theurgy back. Another cool thing I want to show you, even though I've already told you can use the invocation here to use your back row and one of your monsters to go into your Iwis fusion, you could also use the Theurgy to equip something to one of your Magistus. And then I can activate invocation, and since one of the equipped monsters happens to be a spellcaster and a Magistus, I can use it as one of the materials alongside that synchro, and then I have the Iwis on the field. And then because I did that, I still have 2 level 4s on the field, and I didn't need to use them, so I could go into a rank 4 of my choice. And if I happen to go into Abyss Dweller and one of the materials happens to be an Endymion, which is a water monster, then we'll get that bonus effect of Abyss Dweller to make all your monsters that are water attribute gain 500 attack. So he himself will be 22 if you happen to have a Crowley equipped to it. So that's pretty nice. We get to turn off the opponent's grave, and we get to yoink one of the opponent's monsters. I do believe it is important to play 3 copies of Magistus, because it's never dead in your hand. To be real with you, it's never dead. It either gives you one special summon that allows you to search for a normal summon, or it gives you multiple special summons that allows you to search for a normal summon, really. So I can activate it, summon multiple from the hand, and you see just how much advantage I'm going to get here. So I -1 card by getting rid of that Magistus here, and then I can special summon 1 Zoroa and 1 Riliona. And the Riliona on summon will search for a back row. Of course, I need to have the invocation for my combo, so I'm going to search for it. Then I can use the Zoroa, equip to itself a Artemis, although you could equip to the Riliona if you wanted. It's completely fine. It doesn't really make a difference. Then you can activate the Artemis, search for something, and you can search for whatever you want. I'm going to search for the Crowley here in case I happen to need a special summon. I can activate the invocation here, go into Iwis using always the Artemis, because why not use the Artemis, it's free, and one of the monsters from our hand. And then we still have the 2 monsters that we can use to go into 1 rank 4 of our choice. I'll go into Giant Hand, for example, and if the opponent had a monster on the field that could negate something, maybe they don't know what the hell we're doing, so they're waiting for their dangerous effects to negate, right? Maybe we can play through it and they're afraid that we can play through it, so they wait for our dangerous effect. That dangerous effect in this deck is Iwis, so if we can get the Giant Hand on the field, then they can't negate the Iwis, because we use the Iwis to, let's say, target their Decode Talker. They tribute a monster, then we chain Giant Hand to negate Decode Talker, and then the Iwis will successfully take control of their Decode Talker and we can go in for game. So it's a really simple deck. All we need to do is the exact same thing every game. Fusion summon Iwis, you know, get the Artemis search off, use the Artemis as fusion material, and then you will probably have some way to have 2 level 4s on the field so we can go into a rank 4, disrupt the opponent, be annoying. And that's what we want to do in Yu-Gi-Oh! We want to just annoy the opponent, okay? Because this is not a 2-player game. This is a 1-player game and the other person watches, alright? I'm just kidding, alright? Kinda. But of course, you can play staples if you want in this deck. I feel like the deck is good enough at playing through interruptions as it is already. Of course, this deck is an Orchist, but at the end of the day, are you coming to every one of my videos expecting every deck to be the next Orchist, bro? No, not everybody can be tier 0. But that doesn't mean that everything's trash, alright? This deck is solid, inherently can play through things, and as you'll see in the replays, and it's relatively cheap too. You just go through the same main box 3 times, and hopefully have the right dream tickets to go get your generic rank 4s. So let's go into the replay, shall we? Alright, my opponent's going first here, and he's playing Salamangreats. I'm just gonna, you know, click the fast forward button, save us all some time. I'm not even going to do commentary, I'll just mute myself here. Hold on, I forgot to press the pause button there. Just real quick before I get into my stuff, hey, look at all these prismatics. You know, good on this guy for being dedicated to Salamangreats. So, anyway, he's got a back row here, so I'm going to try to play through it. The Magistus is quite nice for playing through back row. If it happens to be a Cosmic, then this is a great target for that Cosmic, and we can still have our normal summon afterwards. But, you know, it's not a Cosmic. Just going to use the Magistus, summon a couple monsters from hand. We're going to activate the Zoroa, and he's going to Chalice it, meaning that we will be negated. But we have the Magistus Theurgy, so we're still going to be able to get off what we need to get off here. We're going to equip that Artemis search for the Rilliona. We have a normal summon, so we normal summon the Rilliona. He gets to add one of his salads back to hand, so he's going to add the Foxy back. And we got to search for Magistus Invocation. And we get to activate Magistus Invocation, very easy, to go into Iwis. And then we can Magistus again. We go into Magistus, you know, maybe for some battle protection, right? And we don't activate the effect of Iwis here, because if we destroy the mirror, let's say we take control of the Sullen Lion Wolf, right? And we destroy the mirror with one of these guys on our field here. Well, in that scenario, he can just protect it with the Balinx. Then I attack it again. Well, he can special summon Gazelle from the hand, and I don't have an interruption anymore. So I might as well keep an interruption on the field, that being the Iwis. And I leave these 2 on the field instead of summoning an Abyss Dweller, because I feel like he might be able to special summon enough next turn with his follow-up plays without activating from the grave. So I'm just going to let him do his thing. I'm going to just break him down nice and slow and steady, right? So breaking him down slow and steady, you know, and then he can combo off, and I'll let him combo off until he does something that threatens me. I don't feel the need to do anything over the top, right? So he's just going to do his thing, get that Foxy search, use the circle, get his Gazelle finally, go into the second copy of Balinx, then he can go special summon that Gazelle and send his copy of Jack Jaguar. I think there's a chance he might be trying to bait me out here, because if he like doesn't go into a Link 2 first, then he won't get as much value off of his Sunlight Wolf. You know, if he goes for the Jack Jaguar right now, he won't get to add a card back with that Sunlight Wolf, right? But that would be the general optimal thing to do. But maybe he's thinking, well, instead of that, maybe I just get 4 monsters on the field and go into Borrowload Dragon, which can't be targeted by monster effects. That would have been a nice thing to do. That definitely would have been a nice thing to do. However, I would have just taken one of his materials regardless. But yeah, he's not going for that. He is going for the Sunlight Wolf. And to prevent him from using the Jack Jaguar, I'm just going to yoink his guy. Yoink, that's mine. That's my Sunlight Wolf, thank you very much. But he does actually get back his thing, but he goes into Security Dragon, and he bounces back his own Sunlight Wolf, but then what? He got nothing on the field, I got 2 level 4s. He has no follow-up play, he has no Salamangreats on the field, he has nothing to float into, he's done. He thought he won, but he had nothing left, and all it took was a little yoink. Alright, I get to go first this time. which means I get to better show off the rank 4 capabilities of this deck. So I got the Magistus, of course. I do play 3 copies, alright, so don't get mad at me for opening it again. The opponent is playing a Kiza, alright. If the opponent's playing a 5Ds character, the general rule of thumb is that they're probably going to synchro summon, so you're probably going to go into Steel Swarm Roach. So, Magistus, special summon 2 from the hand. I already have the invocation, so I don't need to search for the Rilliona here, so the Artemis is going to give me the Endymion instead. And I get to fusion summon here using 2 monsters, one of them being a back row, into this guy. Then I normal summon the Endymion, go into Roach, and that's my field. It doesn't look like much, but it is a lot. Of course, it is a Roach at the end of the day. And of course, it is also a Yoink with the Iwis. So Roach Rose, and you know, he's going to be able to get materials for a level 7 on the field, but I have a Roach on the field. And realistically, there's nothing he could have done. I think he was trying to bait me or whatever, but there's really, what are you going to do? If you can't beat Roach, you can't beat Roach. And that's pretty much how this deck wins a lot of its games. You summon Roach, or you summon Dweller, and you win just because you're able to summon them. And that's kind of the cheesy way to win, but that's how rank 4 decks win these days, alright? What can I tell you? Alright, I'm going first here against Harpies. Something you should know about Harpies is if you can stop their normal summon, you can stop them. So Zoroa is going to search for Artemis, and you know, also special summon the Endymion because I don't need its effect, right? Remember, Zoroa can also special summon one from hand. That's pretty nice. So then I get to search for the Rilliona using the Artemis, and I don't need the Reliona's normal summon effect because I already have the invocation. I do play 3 copies of it, the 3 copies of invocation, that is. But you know, I do have the right amount of materials here, so I'm going to activate the invocation, use 2 monsters, one of them being a back row to go into the Iwis. Crowley can then special summon itself by discarding the Rilliona. Rilliona also has that really nice grave effect. Then I can go into the rank 4 giant hand in case the opponent has any negates. Because I had a feeling that they could be playing Harpies, and if they're playing Cyber / Harpy Lady, then the giant hand might not be as good. But in comparison to the Roach, however, they could have just gone easily into a rank 4 instead. But anyway, he has the Book of Moon to get rid of my rank 4 regardless. But he activates Hunting Ground, he summons any Harpy. I'm going to yoink it right now. You don't get to activate Elegant Egotist. That is my Harpy, buddy. But he activates Lance. Oh, but because he was thinking, oh man, if this guy's an equip spell, then that's a spell effect. So if I can use Lance, then it'll be protected from the fact that it's an equip spell. But the effect activates while he's a monster, so it is therefore a monster effect regardless of where he is when it resolves. So I'm going to take his monster that is mine to yoink, and he scoops it up. So I just wanted to do a little guide on this deck because I haven't seen very many people playing it online, and the builds I've seen online aren't that great because they're just playing like really weird ratios of all of these spells that you obviously want to have in your hand. Really, even if a card is searchable, if you want to have it in your opening hand, then you do play 3 of it. Like realistically, like obviously you'll play less than 3 copies if you are intending on searching for it but don't want it in your opening hand. But if you do want it in your opening hand, then it's great that you can search for it, but you still want to play 3 for consistency reasons, because I don't want to play 5 or 4 fusion spells. I want to fusion summon every game. Iwis is the win condition, right? But yeah, let me know how you guys feel about Magistus in the comments. If you have any questions about the deck, be sure to leave them in the comments and I will do my best to talk to you about them. I feel like this deck is pretty cool. I think it's slept on. It's not like the best deck in the world, but it is a really nice and really fun deck, and I think it's pretty competitive, and maybe with some support it can be meta. If you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, hit that bell to get notified every time we make a new video. And I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Wait, hey, I feel like the greatest. Okay. Nah, I feel like they hate it. Okay. Nah, I feel like the only one and there is no debating. Okay. Man, I feel like they leaving. Okay. Nah, I feel like they waited. Nah, I feel like this is the feeling before I can make it. Before I hit the stage, I just feel like I'm nauseous. Or I feel like I'm popping. Or I feel like a boss is. Maybe I'm feeling off it. Or I feel like I'm toxic. Maybe feeling intoxicated is the reason for all this. I wanna whip it with the top down, dog, like I'm Earth Gang. Told him, listen, Wild Day shine like my first name. Told me go and grab a titty, boy, it's my first chain. I ain't even switch gears yet, it's the first lane. The first pain I ever felt was the worst pain. And church came, and that feeling of hurt came. And her name made this feeling all worth pain. She made me realize what I had felt in the first place.